working semiconductor laser. In the previous meetings, we organized a lot of events about wafer level testing of indium phosphide. Do you still have a problem with the yield on semiconductor lasers? Is that a challenge, or is it 100% working semiconductor lasers that co-packaged?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, without giving too much of the, what we are thinking, it's going to be really challenged, to continue on. Like I said, well, it's right now the semiconductor does have, especially for the laser, it actually has its needs and also has its applications. But yeah.
The reason why I asked this question, we do have great companies in the testing and characterization of indium phosphide semiconductor lasers. I already said in the beginning, in the introduction, and this is a great room for cooperation, because as you have said, everyone, Ruby is here open for collaboration, so for cooperation. This is an epic meeting, and we have two questions for you in the chat. The first one is coming from Santa Barbara, UCSB. John Bowers, thank you very much for this. What's on your mind?
So you raised a good question about laser reliability, but I wonder if we're already at the point where simplicity is more reliable, right? So if you had 500 sources, as Thomas mentioned, 500 pluggables is not very reliable, right? Just every time you plug and unplug them in the SerDes, it's like, if you didn't have integrated circuits, right? If you had a billion individual transistors, that would be very, very unreliable. Aren't we already at that point where co-packaged is more reliable than pluggables?
I think that's a big statement, John. So I don't think that's there are still a lot of study that needs to be done. And there are still quite a lot of data to be collected, as Thomas mentioned. I would say that for the CPOs, that we do see the need for that to reduce the power. However, from the reliability, or you have to think that the CPO, like we see the pluggable is still gonna be in our generation. And is that in the points that to cutting over all the way to CPO? That is really a big question to answer, but we still see a lot of tiers in our network will have the pluggable, and CPO will come in. Is it going to be a step-by-step questions, and we got to continue on with the incremental change in our networks. So to answer your question, it's really something, there are more to study, and there are more to evaluate down the road.
Ruby, for me, that sounded like a not yet. That's what I really read between the lines. John, what is your answer to your own question? Is CPO already more reliable than pluggable?
I think so. And I don't want to steal from Gustavo's question, but I think the advantage of integrating lasers like Intel does is you can do wafer level burn-in and testing. You can test in complete link, right? And so it's much, I think, higher yield than having to assemble things and test along the way with known good parts. So just like you'd never make a server with 7 billion individual transistors, you would never do, to me, even at 51 terabits, you wouldn't have 500 100 gig pluggables. That's just completely unfeasible. Or even 125 400 gig modules. So I think co-package is the only way to go.
I would actually think that this is still an intermediary step. We've been talking about so many intermediary steps, but I still dream of further integration of photonics and electronics than CPO. But that's a futuristic dream. And I think you share that dream as well I see in your research. But I would like to go to now Lumiface. Gustavo, I think we had a great